Before you can forward log entries to an external logging service, you must configure the firewall with a server profile that contains the connection information of the external service. We'll configure a server profile with connection information for a Syslog server by browsing to Device, Server Profiles, Syslog, and then clicking Add. We'll name our Syslog server profile Syslog Profile. On the Servers tab, we'll click Add and configure the connection information for our Syslog server. The name you enter here does not have to be the actual host name of the Syslog server. The name here is simply a label for the Syslog server on the firewall. We'll enter Syslog01. However, the Syslog server that you enter here must be the actual IP address or fully qualified domain name of your Syslog server. We'll type in the IP address 192.168.50.10. In this demonstration, we are connecting our firewall to a BSD-based Syslog server. Notice that the firewall can support Syslog servers that expect either BSD formatted entries and protocol responses, and also IETF formatted entries and protocol responses. We're going to leave ours at BSD. The firewall will send the log entries via UDP to port 514 on our Syslog server. For the transport, we support either UDP, TCP, or SSL. SSL is available to secure your log data in transit if your Syslog server supports SSL connections. The Syslog facility used to generate these Syslog entries is set for log user, but notice that log local 0 through log local 7 facilities are also available to you. The Custom Log Format tab enables you to configure custom Syslog formats that enable the firewall to work with many different Syslog vendor solutions. For example, let's say that you want to forward your traffic log entries to a Syslog server, but you need to define what a traffic log entry should look like when the firewall sends one to your Syslog server. You can define that here. Start by clicking Traffic, for example. Then click the fields in order that you want the firewall to send to the Syslog server. For example, we could select time received, and that first field is entered here. And then we could select a number of other fields. For instance, we could say, well, then send the destination IP address, then send the destination port number, then send the destination user, and finally send the application name to the Syslog server. The Syslog server would receive log entries that contain these 5 fields in this order. You would then write some sort of utility or program that could search or use this information on your external Syslog server. We'll just click OK to close this window for now. Now we'll go back to the Servers tab, and here's our entry. We have a Syslog server named Syslog01 at this IP address. We're going to use UDP port 514 and the BSD format to connect to that log server, send it our log entries, and they'll be logged as the Syslog facility known as log user. At this point, we'll just click OK to save our Syslog server profile. Notice the Syslog server profile is added to our screen. After creating our Syslog server profile, we will need to configure a log forwarding profile. A log forwarding profile does not have to forward all log entries to an external service, nor does it have to forward all logs to the same external service. A log forwarding profile provides great flexibility by enabling you to configure which log types and which log entries to forward to which external services. Start by browsing to Objects, log forwarding, and then clicking Add to add a log forwarding profile. We'll name our log forwarding profile Threat Forwarding Profile. Because we'll use it to forward log entries from various types of firewall threat logs. We'll begin by configuring one or more match conditions that determine which log entries from which log types to forward to our Syslog server. We'll click Add and name our first match condition Forward Threat Logs. Because it will forward log entries from our threat log to our Syslog server. For the log type, we'll select Threat. Notice many types of logs can be forwarded to an external Syslog server. Again, we'll choose Threat. We'll leave the filter set at all logs to ensure that any threat log entries can be forwarded to our Syslog server. No entries will be filtered out. Then under Syslog, we'll click Add, and we'll choose the name of our Syslog server profile that we configured earlier. Notice that SNMTP, email, HTTP, and Panorama are also available as destinations for our external logging. This means that we could use this log forwarding profile to forward our firewall's threat log entries to other types of external log services too. In this demonstration, we are not going to cover the built-in actions pane. This pane is primarily used to add or remove dynamic tags to IP addresses and to register the IP addresses with the user ID agent. All of this is beyond the scope of this demonstration. To save our log forwarding configuration in progress, we'll click OK. And notice our first match condition now has been added to our screen. Now, this first match condition can forward any type of log entry from our threat log to our Syslog server. Now let's click Add again and add another match condition. We'll name this one Forward URL Logs. And select URL as the log type. And again, we'll leave the filter set to all logs. We'll click Add to add our Syslog server profile. And again, we'll add this new match condition by clicking OK. Now our log forwarding profile has two different match conditions. One will forward threats from the threat log to Syslog. The other one can forward our URL log entries to Syslog. Let's click Add one more time and add one more match condition. This time we'll name our match condition Forward Wildfire Logs. And we'll select Wildfire as our log type. But rather than use a filter of all logs, this time let's apply a filter. We'll do so not by selecting a predefined filter, which is available to us, but by using the filter builder. For our filter, we'll select the Boolean AND connector. Then we'll select a verdict of equal to malicious. And then we'll add this as our filter in progress up here. To this, we'll add another filter by clicking AND connector again, the verdict connector again, the equal connector again, but this time we'll select phishing as the verdict value. And we'll click Add one more time. And notice that we now have two filters. If the verdict is equal to malicious and the verdict is equal to phishing, we'll do something based on that particular filter. Let's go ahead and click OK to apply this filter. And let's not forget, though, we still need to provide our Syslog server profile. Let's click OK to see how our log forwarding profile looks. So here we have 3 entries now in our log forwarding profiles. We can forward any log entries from the threat or URL filtering logs to our Syslog server. However, we can also forward wildfire log entries to Syslog as long as those entries have either malicious or phishing verdicts. Let's go ahead and click OK to save our log forwarding profile. The final step in our log forwarding configuration is to apply our log forwarding profile to either our security zones or to our policy rules. You can apply log forwarding to the security, authentication, or DOS protection policy rules. We'll demonstrate a security zone and a security policy rule as examples. Let's browse to Policies, Security, and click Allow Google to open the rule. Then on the Actions tab, we'll select from our log forwarding menu our log forwarding profile named Threat Forwarding Profile, and then click OK. This configuration causes the firewall to forward to our Syslog server any threat or URL filtering log entries that are generated by traffic matching this policy rule. In addition, this also causes the firewall to forward to our Syslog server any wildfire submissions log entries containing malicious or phishing verdicts that are also generated by traffic matching this policy rule. To add a log forwarding profile to a security zone, let's browse to Network, Zones, and click to open our inside zone. For our log setting, we'll select our log forwarding profile. This configuration causes the firewall to forward to our Syslog server any threat log entries that are generated as a result of any zone protection profile that is attached to our zone. Again, we'll click OK to save our configuration. This concludes our log forwarding configuration demonstration.